Shantimurti. And I said, "Oh, I heard you were giving a class today. So what did you teach today?" He said, "Oh, I made them sweat." So I said, "So that's what I do with our Madanga players." Are you okay? Do you need to call an ambulance? Can you just help their lordships just go back over there with Saraswati and Lord Shiva? Namasheshtam manamapi aishachiputram atra surupam rupam tasagajamuripurim maturim goshtavatim radha kundamagirivaram Ahoradikamadvasam Rapto yasya pratita kripaya Shri Guru tam natosmi Gurave Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadale Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tad Bhaktaya Namo Namaha. First of all, I offer my heart like flowers thousands and thousands of times at the feet of my spiritual master, my supremely worshipable holy Gurudev. Nityalila Parish Om Vishupad Ashto Tarasaptashisimai Rupanugacharya Varya Srila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. And secondly, I offer my pranam at the feet of my Guru's Guru and his Guru and his Guru and all of our great spiritual masters, by whose compassion and diligent endeavors the nectar of transcendental love descends from thousands of years gradually through the chain of Gurus into this world, into New Zealand, into Ashram Yoga Center today. And finally, I offer my pranam to all of you, my very dear brothers and sisters. So our subject matter today our subject matter today is comparing, contrasting, appreciating the two traditions, the Ashtanga Yoga tradition and the Bhakti Yoga tradition. I want to show, actually, in the very ancient times, they were not separate. They were practiced together. So we're looking at Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, and we'll be looking at the Bhakti Sutras of Narad. So I know all of you have done 5,000 hours teacher training. So you can recite all the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali in your sleep. So I thought we'd skip out some of the easier sutras and do some of the ones which are more knotty, more, very often people struggle to understand what do they really mean. So we chose a few sutras which are very interesting and which also shed light on the Bhakti Yoga experience as well. So, first of all, in the first sutra of Patanjali, he says, Ata yoga anushashanam. Ata means now. Now, yoga anushashanam. Teachings of the discipline of yoga. Ata is also a particle which is used in Sanskrit to invoke auspiciousness, to remove obstacles from understanding. And also authors use this to remove obstacles in their writing as well. That they'll write everything clearly without any mistake, and that they can complete the work before they die. Because sometimes people start to write a book, and they pass away before it's completed. So to invoke auspiciousness and remove obstacles, Ata, yoga, anushasana. So shasana means teaching. But here the prefix anu is very important. Anu, like all prefixes in Sanskrit, has a number of meanings. But especially it means following. In other words, Patanjali is saying that I didn't make this up. It's not my own creation, but it's following the ancient tradition. I'm just systematizing it in the form of sutras, and that's what sutras are for. The word sutra means a thread. So because the Sanskrit is our mother language, English, French, German, Italian, Spanish, Russian, Lithuanian, Latvian, Estonian, Persian, all these languages, and then of course the Indian languages, Hindi, Bengali, Gujarati, Punjabi, Oriya, they're all derived from Sanskrit. That's our mother language. And this Vedic culture is our mother culture also for the whole world, for the whole universe. So, Anu, here, Patanjali is saying that knowledge has come to me, and I am systematizing it in these sutras. So the Sanskrit word sutra, and if you have an accident, here we can have demonstration. I bought a specimen. Here somewhere had an accident, right? And where the cuts are, they give stitches, right? So what are the stitches called? Sutras, right? So it comes from the Sanskrit sutra, threads. Yeah. So the thread means that these are short aphorisms, and there's a thread of an idea that joins them all together. So when a teacher wants to teach us a subject which is very vast to the student, he encapsulates important points in sutras, and each one follows after the next one, and there's a sutra, a thread that goes through all of them, which joins them together. So if a person were to just find a book with the sutras in it, and they'll read, then they won't actually properly make sense of it. So it's also like a security. It's like a password on the file. that the teacher teaches what's the connection between each sutra. He teaches the thread that joins them together, and then the student can learn he can memorize a vast amount of information in this kind of compressed file. So that's what sutra literatures are for. So there are many different types of sutras, like Vedanta Sutra, or Kama Sutra, and Yoga Sutra, Bhakti Sutra, Sankhya Sutra, Nyaya Sutra. For learning logic, you have Nyaya Sutras. If you want to learn grammar, you have the Panini Sutras. So, Patanjali is saying in the very first sutra, this knowledge is coming down to me, and now I'm just making a convenient way to pass it down to the further generations. So the main commentator on the Sutras of Patanjali is Vyas. He wrote his Vyas Bhasya. And that commentary is so respected, it's so honored, that generally when people study Patanjali, they study it along with Vyasa's commentary, and it's afforded the equal amount of authority and prestige as the original sutras. So Vyas points out that Patanjali has received this knowledge in a line of gurus coming from Hiranyagarbha Brahma. Hiranyagarbha Brahma. So that's very interesting, because we already have a connection now between the Yoga Sutras and the Bhakti Sutras. Because the Bhakti Sutras, they're much older. They're composed by a sage called Narad. He's very famous. If you know the Mahabharata or Ramayana or the Puranas, then Narad is everywhere. So, the sage Narad, and he's a direct disciple of Hiranyagarbha Brahma. So already in the ancient history of the Yoga Sutras and in the history of the Bhakti Sutras, they already meet, historically, to one teacher. So, as you know, in the next sutra, Patanjali tells Yogas Chitta Vritti Nirodha. He defines yoga as the nirodha, the complete restraint of all the chitta vrittis. That means the waves and the whirlpools, the thought patterns, the oscillations in the fabric of your mind stuff. Right? Because the mind is it's a thing, actually. It's actually a thing. It's not gross like earth or water, but it's a subtle energy, and it has a certain viscosity. And so when the gunas act upon it, especially rajas, the mode of passion acts on it, then it starts to vibrate. And so those vibrations of the mind stuff, those waves in the mindscape, these are your chitta vrittis. And all of your thoughts and feelings and ideas, all they are is just these the bubbles and whirlpools in the surface of your mind. So that yoga is how to restrain them. Because as long as the mind is oscillating, then we can't understand ourselves. We identify with them. We just, whatever's coming in our mind, we think that's me. We just wake up in the morning and then the mind goes, coffee, and then we do it. Well, I hope we don't. You shouldn't. So, like this, whatever's coming in the mind, we just do that. So, Patanjali gives a sutta, vritti sarupyam itaratra, that if your mind is not in the state of nirodha, peacefulness, at rest, then you must identify with whatever waves are going on there. But, tada drastu surupavastanam. If the mind is peaceful, just like a lake, there's a lake of water and you look in it, it's completely still, you can see your face. So in the same way, if our chitta, our mind stuff becomes completely steady, there, reflected in that, we can see our soul. And we can understand that we're not this physical which is a big relief. This body is, it's destined to be destroyed. It's just like a flower in a vase that's just slowly wilting and then goes black and then starts to smell. Yeah. Or like a fruit. It's nice for a little bit of time, and after a few days it starts to get wrinkly, and you can give it some Botox or something, but anyway, it's still, in the end, it's going to be finished. So, so our body's like that. It's just, literally, it's a fruit. Do you know what it is? It's a karma fowl. It's a karma file, it's the fruit of karma. Yeah, so this body that we have is prarabdha karma, the fruit of karma. So then when the body is finished, then we get the next fruit of the karma that we've done, of our activities like that. So that's a kind of embarrassing and compromised position for the soul, because the soul is transcendental, eternal, the soul is Satchidananda, full of consciousness, full of joy, and we have to undergo this material existence. So yoga means to separate our consciousness from the infatuation with the temporary material things and discover our true spiritual atmosphere, our true spiritual environment. So, as you know, the vrittis of the mind, Patanjali has divided them into how many?
4, 5.
4, 5? Anyone
4
else?
you can
More
do on
guesses?
your own and
So there are five chitta vrittis. Praman, Viparya, Vikalpa, Smriti, Nidra, Smritayaha. That's the sutra. So there are 5 things that your mind does. These are, because your mind does millions of things, but these are the 5 broad categories. Whatever you do falls into these categories. So the first one is called Praman. And Praman means valid cognition. You see something as it is. Valid cognition. You look at something like, whatever, these cartels, and the cartels are really there. It's not a dream, you're not hallucinating, it's actually there. So when you see something that's really there and you see it as it is, that is called Praman. So the question comes, why is that considered a chitta vritti? And the reason is, to understand that, we have to know something about the mechanics of perception. How do we perceive things? So basically what happens, it's a bit like, okay, let's say you take a smartphone and it's in camera mode, right? So when you point it at something, then the lens takes in the light, and then the screen transforms and produces a picture of what's out there in as high resolution as it can be, depending on the capacity of the lens and so on, and the software. So in the same way, when the light goes in your eye, then according to the power of your eye, a message will be passed on to the chitta, and then the chitta will transform, a bit like the screen transforms, and makes a replica of what's out there. And that's what your soul is seeing. So every time you're looking at everything, you're not actually seeing the things directly, but you're like this. You're the soul, there's your chitta, and the things are out there. So it's not that your mind invents them, but your mind is recreating them according to the capacity of your sense, and according to the fineness also of the chitta. So if the chitta is more fine, if there's less tamas there, if there's less rajas there, if there's more sattva, then you'll get a sharper image and understanding of what's going on. So someone may be shaking their head saying, what's this Prem talking about? You might not believe me, but we can prove it very easily. So we can give the example of hallucination. Who's been to India? Been to India? Who's had typhoid and malaria? Right, so most people who lived a long time there, you eventually get it. So when you get a fever, typhoid fever, to about 106, and you're just knocking on heaven's door, so at that time you start to hallucinate, right? And you look at it, and everything just starts moving by itself. Or, I know none of you have ever done any hallucinogenics or anything, but if you have, so I've been told, so everything just starts moving. So what is hallucination? Hallucination means that chemically, or by disturbance of the pran caused by a disease, that our chitta has become disturbed. So what happens? Everything out there starts moving. And that's the proof that what you're seeing, you're not actually seeing the things out there. The things that you're looking at which are out there are actually the modifications of your chitta. So when the chitta is disturbed, it starts going all psychedelic. Okay? So that's how it works. Yeah? So, now and that's why the first vritti that Patanjali speaks of is praman. So praman means that when your chitta has a vritti, it moves and it produces with accuracy what's out there. Okay, so that's praman, that's the first one. Then the next one is called viparya. So this is where all the problems are, because viparya, that's invalid cognition. You're cognizing something, but you're cognizing it incorrectly. It's an invalid cognition. And this comes from rajas. When rajas is there, then you get a wrong perception of things. So that viparya is also of 5 types: avidya, asmit, rag, dvesh, and abhinivesh. You all know those things, right? Avidya, mistaking the not self to be the self, mistaking the painful to be pleasurable. You know, you think something's going to give you a lot of pleasure, but in the end it ends up being painful. That's like more or less everything in this world. Because Patanjali said, Dukam sarvam eva vivekinaha. One who's a viveki, who can discriminate, he says, it's all kind of painful. Because even the enjoyment, when you enjoy it, it increases your attachment. And then your attachment gets you stuck here for more lifetimes, you see. So it's whether you're suffering or whether you're enjoying. For the yogi who sees the outcome of everything, who has that broader vision, it's all kind of painful. So those are really yogis. They don't do that stuff. They don't try to enjoy. They're atmaram. Oh, here's my friend here. Atmaram means the ram means pleasure. They take pleasure in the atma. Because actually your soul is just full of joy. So if you're looking for happiness, it means you've lost your soul already. Yeah? So if you found your soul, you won't be looking for happiness because you already got it. So, avidya has these portions: accepting the non-self to be the self, accepting that which is miserable to be a cause of happiness, accepting the impure to be pure, and accepting the temporary to be eternal. We invest in things because we think that they're substantial and that they'll last, but they won't. Nothing will last. In the commentaries, Vyas said, even you're in illusion if you think that the mountains and the sky are eternal and they'll last, because they won't. The whole universe is going through cycles over millions of years, and it expands and then it dissolves again. It expands the kalpas, you know. It expands and dissolves. So every single thing that you can experience with your senses is going to vanish like a puff of smoke. It's not going to be there anymore. Then what will you do? Because you're still going to be there, because we're Atma and we're timeless, we're eternal. We're not some insignificant whatever, something that you can throw in the trash. We're all amazing. Atma is amazing. Ascharya, the Vedas say. When you hear about Atma, everyone goes, wow, I'm that. I'm a transcendental being beyond time and space, an eternal particle of God, who's like an ocean of love. Wow, didn't know that. I thought my name was Frederick Smith from Okay, so avidya is we accept something which is not us to be us, essentially. And then that manifests as the next aspect of viparya, which is asmita, where you mistake the powers of your senses with your consciousness. Your senses have power, and your consciousness is superimposed on the actions of the senses. So whatever your senses are doing, you think that's me. It's another complete illusion. Complete illusion. And I was just traveling from one place to another, and I went through Dubai. So when I got to Dubai, I wanted to get another speaker for my tampur. Because you know these big tampurs, I can't fit it in my suitcase. And when if you want to sing in another rag, you have to take half an hour retuning them all. So I wanted to get a new speaker for my tampur. So I had a friend there in Dubai. He said, I know where you can get it. Come with me, I'll take you to the electrical store. So then we went to the electrical store, and there are all these customers in there. and the assistants were putting on these VR goggles, you know, VR, virtual reality goggles. Have you seen those things? Right? So they were calling people into the shop and saying, try these, you know, and they were putting them on the people. And the people are there and they're like, going like this, you know. And I was just looking, think, what are they doing? So then he called me, he said, do you want to try? Okay, here. So I put it on, and then you put it on, and I was like, underwater. And I mean, and I'm going through over the surface of the ocean, and there's all these fish and sharks and bubbles everywhere. And that's why the people are going like this to like move the fish out of the way. And it's like totally 3D, and you completely think that you're there. And it's not like watching a 3D cinema, you see. Because if you look at a 3D cinema, you can snap out of the illusion because you just look to your left and your friend's sitting there, you know, and there's someone selling popcorn. So, you know, but this, when you turn your head, it's like you see what's behind you, and it's 300, and it's up and down and everywhere. So you're totally immersed, and whatever that video is doing, you think it's you, and you're going. So this is asmita. In Bhagavad Gita, it says, "Naiva kinchit karomiti." A person who has pure consciousness, they understand that whenever they're standing, sitting, walking, talking, eating, lying down, opening and closing their eyes, that actually only the senses are engaged with their objects, but the self is doing nothing. So the senses of the physical body are interacting with the external sense objects. But we're Atma, we're transcendental, we're not doing anything, we're not going anywhere. But because of Asmit, we identify with our sensory perceptions, we in this illusion of life. Think, you know, whatever. The police are chasing me. Something. You know, I'm dying. But this is, it's all, nothing's happening to the soul. So that's why due to this misidentification, we have all types of existential fears. So one who knows the self becomes free from all anxiety and all fear. So praman, vipariyai, asmit, rag and dvesh, you will know, attachment, and the opposite, aversion. So we come under the control of attachment and aversion. And then abhinivesh means the fear of death, or the love of life, or such absorption that we think that nothing exists outside of the physical realm. As people say, when you're dead, it's all over and nothing will happen. There was one philosopher in India named Charvak. He said, Yavan jivet, sukam jivet, grini kritva gritam pibet. It means as long as you're alive, enjoy yourself. If you're poor, you can't afford much, no problem. Get some credit cards and max them out. Well, he didn't say that because there were no credit cards. But ghee is kind of expensive, but it's really tasty. So he said, even if you have to go into debt, just borrow money and eat ghee every day. Why? Because when you're dead, it's over, and they're not going to be able to catch you to pay your credit cards off. So, like that. So this is abhinivesh. Just the idea that there's nothing more than the physical. Because we're so absorbed in the gross physical world that we think that that's it. When the body's over, it's over. So these are the 5 different types of vipariyai. So we're going through them, right? Praman, vipariyai, and then vikalpa. Vikalpa means conceptualization which has no basis in reality. There are many things we see, and then we conceptualize about them. We create some ideas about what they really mean and what's going on. So, if that's correct, then it will be under the category of praman. But if it's incorrect, if our conceptualization has no foundation in reality, then it's called vikalpa. So, for example, just now the sun is setting. Did you see the sunset? The sun was going down. Right? You've seen the sun go down before, right? Yeah? Are you sure? Or is it just a vikalpa? Is the sun really going down?
Yeah.
Is it really? It's not going down, is it? It's a vikalpa. Think about it. Think about it. See, the planet's actually turning like that, and it's more like you're going down. But we think the sun is going down. So there are many things like that we see something and we make a construct in our mind about what it is, and we're totally wrong. So that's called vikalpa. And then there's smriti. Smriti means memory. So, memory means that when you look at something, and then your chitta transforms and becomes that thing and you see it, right? That's called a pratyaya. It's an immediate experience. And then when that thing goes away, obviously, what you're seeing goes away as well. Like if you hold something in front of a mirror, the reflection's there, and when you take it away, then it's gone in the reflection. So your mind is like that. So when that object is there, that image of it in your chitta is called pratyaya. And then when the object is taken away, the pratyaya disappears, and you can't see it any longer, but there's an impression left behind in the chitta. And that's called a sanskar. Sanskar, impression. Just like if someone walks on the beach, they've gone, but their footprints are still there. So similarly, every single thing that you've ever done in your life is stored as sanskars in your chitta. It's there, but it's receded into the subconscious mind. It's not in your conscious mind right now. And not only that, but all the things you did in your last life, and the life before that, and the life before that, they're also all stored in your chitta. So if you can, when you develop the ekagrata, the focus, you can look inside your chitta and check out all the records of your past lives. They're all there, and you can find out what you did that made you end up where you are now. Not do it again. And also you can see, you can read from the sanskars in the chitta what's coming next as well. Because you can't get all of that karma in just one life. You can only get a certain portion of it. So there's a big portion which is left over. So you can look and you see what your next life's going to be. And if you're really good, you can look into someone else's chitta as well and see what they've done and what's happening next to them as well. So these are siddhis. These are that come when your meditation is very deep. Okay. So what smriti is, memory means that you draw out of your impressions from the subconscious. You draw into the conscious mind that object or that experience, but without losing any information. So generally we can't do that so well. What happened at 4:30 on Wednesday afternoon in 1992, in February? Can anyone say? No, we can't do it. It's difficult. It's a bit difficult. So even things that happened yesterday, sometimes we can't remember. So what happens is, when we want to remember something, some part of that memory is smriti, memory. But something has been lost, and what's been lost we make up for that with vikalpa, imagination, conceptualization. So people's memories of the past are a mixture of stuff that happened and stuff that they made up, vikalpa. Right? So then the next vritti is nidra. Nidra means when the chitta has no object. So that's deep sleep. At night when you fall asleep and you dream and then you go into deep sleep and you're experiencing nothing, that particular vritti is nidra. So there are these 5. Now, we're coming for our sutras for today. Let's see how far we can get. Is everyone still on the page? We're all on the same page? Are we all concentrating with ekagra? One-pointedness. Not mudda means you fall asleep. And chipta means your mind is going all over the place. And vikshipta means you concentrate but you just keep losing your concentration. So we want to be in ekagra. One-pointedness. So here, Patanjali, the sutras are so elegant and succinct. He's saying, Kshina brite abhijata syeva mane grihitra grahana grahyeshu tatstat taranjanata sanapatihi. So he wants to introduce different levels of trance. So what are the two main types of trance? Remember? Go on, just go back into those sanskars and dig it out from your teacher training. 2 types of trance. Sampragyata samadhi and asampragyata samadhi. There are 2 types. So the sampragyata samadhi, there are 6 types. So Patanjali wants to introduce 6 types of sampragyata samadhi. And the point to this, there's a point to it. It's just like, let's say you want to become expert at archery, right? So first you get a big target. You get one of those big hay bales with a big target on it, and you stand 10 meters away, and you just try to hit the target somewhere, right? So then, as you practice more and more, you try to shoot smaller and smaller things as you become more and more expert. And until you become like William Tell, right? And then you can just put an apple on your son's head, right? So the reason Patanjali is speaking about these different levels of sampragyata samadhi is because they start with gross things, which it's a meditation on gross things which are easier to understand, and then they move one by one to more and more subtle things. And gradually you give up thinking of that and give up thinking of that, and slowly, and you're working your way towards Atma, the self. It's a way of finding yourself by via negativa. Not this, not this, not this, and making your perception more and more subtle until you finally find the Purush and Ishvara also. Because in the heart, there are 2 Purushas living there. There's Ishvara, who Patanjali calls the Vishesh Purush, the special Purush who is never touched by karma. And then there's you, the other Purush. So Vedanta said, Guham pravisto atmano hi. 2 Purushas are living there in the heart chakra. The Ishvara and ourselves. So God is always very close to us. God is always right there, just kind of tapping his toes, waiting. When will this soul turn around and face me and give me some love? Then the soul will be happy. That's bhakti. So now what Patanjali wants to describe, he's introducing us to the concept of the first levels of trance. So he says, Kshina Vritte means when the vrittis, the oscillations of your mind, Kshina means they die down. They're dying down. They're not completely gone yet. There's only little bit of vritti, sattvic vrittis are there. At that time, abhijatasya, the chitta becomes abhijat. Abhijat means clear. Clear, like, here the word eva, this is what eva means like. And money means a jewel or a crystal. You see? If you have, let's say you have a clear crystal, right? You have a clear crystal. And you hold a red rose next to it. Then when you look at the crystal, the light shining through the crystal, it starts to glow with the red colors of whatever's near to it, like that. So our chitta, when it becomes clear, it's like that. And it begins to reflect the qualities of whatever is near to it, or even whatever you think of, that begins to manifest in the chitta. So he's saying when the vrittis die down, then the chitta becomes like a jewel, completely clear. And when it's completely clear, then tatsta, whatever is situated in the chitta, whatever you think of, tadanjanata means, anjan means literally coloured. Your chitta becomes coloured by that, but literally it means that the chitta transforms and becomes exactly that object. And that situation is called samapati. Samapati. So we can give an example. If a person wants to, let's say if you wanted to know about what's going on in your stomach, right? So there are 2 ways of doing that. One is that you have to have an anesthetic, and then the doctor will cut you open and film it with a video, and he can show you the video later what's going on inside. So there's a gross way, and then you can get knowledge which is yogaja. Yogaja pratyaksha. A perception which comes from yogic power. So essentially what happens is, if you think of, so you could think of your stomach, then what happens, your chitta will exactly transform and make that object, and you can examine it and know all about it through your meditation. That's the Sampragyata Samadhi. And you can choose any object. And when you choose an object, you identify with that so powerfully that the qualities of that object come to you. So that's how you get the siddhis. For example, if you do the samapati or the engrossment on the element of air, then you start to become light as air and you start to float. So that's called levitation. So these are some of the principles of the science of meditation. So, but what Patanjali wants to say here is something really, really very beautiful. And he's saying that you can focus, you can reproduce in your chitta the exact objects, and these are three types: grihitra, grahana, and graheshu. Grihitri, grahana, and graheshu. So what does that mean? Graheshu means the things that you perceive. So you can think of anything which is in the world that you perceive, gross things, and you can think of that, and it will appear in the consciousness perfectly, and you can know everything about it. So that is called the graheshu, in the perceptible things. This is locative case in Sanskrit. So then, grahana. Grahana means the act of perceiving. This is very far out. The act of perceiving. That means, in your meditation, in your chitta, you can experience not the external world, the objects that your senses can touch, but the mechanics of perception itself. You see? So, because it said that, let's take the sense of sight. The sense of sight is actually a very minute, subtle atom. All the five senses, they're five atoms, and they live in the heart chakra. And they have in them Kriya Shakti. So when this Kriya Shakti basically electrifies the element of air, it pushes it around the nadis in the body. You know, you've got Sushumna Nadi, and Ida and Pingala, and then there's 72,000 nadis, and the prana is travelling through these nadis in the body. So when the Kriya Shakti in the sense atom essentially electrifies with Kriya Shakti, the prana in the body, it pushes it out from the heart chakra, and it spreads everywhere. And then that makes basically you think that you're tiny, you're Atma, but it makes you think that you're this big machine, because the sense of perception, the senses of perception is spread out everywhere. You know, just like if you're in a submarine and you look through the periscope, it's like you're above the water, but you're not really. You're below the water, but you see from above the water. So in the same way, like you're here, your Atma's here in the heart, but you think you're up here because this is where the periscopes are. This is where the eyes are. So, is there light in here?
There's a lovely behind the light.
Just put those on a little bit. So, great. We'll turn them off afterwards when we do another kirtan, because then will be a better ambience.
Oh.
But
Use this one? I don't know.
no, just what about that one there?
Maybe that one?
What was this?
Okay. Don't panic. We'll have to just go for the ambience then. So.
Krishna. Yeah, but I think we've got all the stuff.
Yeah, don't worry about it. It's okay. So Patanjali is saying you can move your internal experience from the gross and subtle elements of the external world, and you can see actually how the mechanics of your own perception. And so when you do that, that's called sananda sampragyata samadhi. And then you can move it then to grihitra. Grihitra means the person who's doing the perception. So you have the objects of perception, the act of perception itself, and the person who's perceiving. So that person who's perceiving in this context is not really the soul, but it's the ego. In other words, you can see the conjunction where your consciousness becomes co-joined with the material energy, with the citta, the subtle material energy, like that. And that brings about ego, identification with the world. So you can see how by this meditation you're moving from the gross physical elements to the subtle material elements, to the act of perception, to your ego, who's the one who thinks is perceiving all of these things, and then it's just a little step further to see yourself. So that's how Patanjali is going in. That's introspection, really looking inside, but doing it in stages. So the problem is that when you're going through the first stages, then you can start to know about everything and you start to become curious. And then when you start to do this samapati on different objects in the world and developing their powers, then you think, wow, I'm Superman, I'm Spider-Man, I'm whatever, Iron Man, I'm the Human Torch. You get superpowers, right? So now you're a superhero. And then instead of becoming detached from the world, you get more into enjoying the world. Look, I can make ashes in my hand and get thousands of disciples and bow down to me and I'll be a great mystic yogi. So actually all these mystic powers, they're all illusory, they're all maya. It's just a trap. So that's one of the advantages of Bhakti Yoga over the higher levels of the Astanga Yoga process, that you kind of sidestep all the distractions that can pull you back into illusion. But in the end, because what happens is in the Astanga Yoga process, all these powers come before you're perfect. So the temptation is there. But in Bhakti Yoga, you become perfect first, and then Krishna gives you all the powers for free. But by then you're not bothered about them anyway. You don't care, you just want to have a kirtan. And that's the greatest power of all, because by that love comes, in the heart. So, okay. Now, I'll just go into this one a little bit more deeply. As you know, there are 6 levels of the Sampragyata Samadhi. So the first one is called Savitarka, and then Nirvitarka. That's the first 2. And then you have Savichar and Nirvichar. That's the next 2. So we'll just tell a little bit what that is. It's not complicated. All it means is it refers to what is the alamban, what is the object that you're meditating on. So if the object you're meditating on is something gross, let's say you're meditating on a pot, right? So you sit and you say the word pot, and then your chittavriddhis go down, and then a pot appears in your mind, and you're examining exactly what it is. And it's not imagination, or it's not vikalpa. There's vikalpas. Mainly more or less finished. There's still a little bit there. But it's the actual object itself. And so when there's a little bit of vikalpa still present, it's mixed up, it's a little bit fuzzy, it's not clear, so that's called savitarka. And when all the vikalpa, the memory of what a pot is, and your imagination and your conceptualization of what a pot is, when this is all cleansed away completely, and it's just your chitta has exactly become that object, and nothing else is there, then that is called nirvitarka. So savitarka, it's a bit fuzzy, it's not clear, because there's some vikalpa mixed in and smriti mixed in, and when those 2 have gone, then it's a solid direct experience. Then it's called notarka. So then the next level, savichar, is the same thing, but instead of looking at the object, you look at the subtle elements from which it's made. So you're not looking at the pot, you're looking at the clay. The subtle cause of the elements from which it's made. They're called tanmatra. So when the consciousness goes on the subtle cause of the pot, the ingredient of it, the tanmatra, then that is called savichar. When it's still not clear, it's a bit fuzzy, it's not fully in focus because it's mixed with smriti and vikalpa. And then when smriti and vikalpa are taken away and it's completely clear, then it's nirvichar. So those first 4 levels, savitarka, nirvitarka, savichar, nirvichar, like that. And then the next level is sananda, and then you experience great joy. That's when you focus on all of these have been graheshu so far. on the mechanics of perception, and you see, it's really far out then. When you see how your perception is working, see, when you touch something, let's say you touch something which is kind of pleasurable, then what happens is your chitta, it's illuminated a bit, some light comes there and it expands. And that's basically what you call happiness. You know, when you just get that chocolate, you bite into that chocolate, like that, and then you feel kind of light and illuminated, like that. So that's basically just an expansion of the chitta going on. And if there's something painful, it causes a contraction. So once you're seeing how the whole thing's working, then you become completely detached from the world. You become totally detached because like, wow, that's what this happiness I was looking for is. It's just this mechanical thing going on. What a scam. It's a complete scam. I've been bamboozled, I've been cheated all this time. You know? So then you become totally detached from everything, and then you feel happiness. So that stage is called sananda. But you're still looking at the world from the perspective of this one chitta, which is also not you. So when you move on to that and you're seeing the conjunction between your consciousness and your chitta, and that's how the ego comes about. So then that's the last one, that's called sasmita. It's meditation with asmita. Asmi means I am. It's meditation with the concept of I am, not related to the soul, but related to your location of your consciousness within the physical world. So, and this is basically what Patanjali is telling in the next two sutras. He's saying the tattva shabdata jnana vikalpa sankirna savitarka. In other words, when your experience of the object, that's the artha, is mixed with shabda, your conceptualization of words and jnana, your material like knowledge, conceptualization of it, vikalpai, it's all, and it's sankirna, it's all mixed together with vikalpa, then that's called savitarka. But smriti parishuddho means when your memory is purified and all the vikalpas have gone away, then shunya, the mind itself becomes completely devoid of any interference. And at that time, artha matra means only the object itself, nirbhasa, is shining within your consciousness, then it's nirvitarka. So then Patanjali goes on and says the same principle is there with savichar and nirvichar, that it's just the object is the subtle element. And it's first fuzzy, then when all the vikalpas go away, then it's clear, like that. So, this is how Patanjali is describing the different levels of trance and how we get closer and closer to the soul. So now I'm going to close the Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, put them down over there. We're going to get the Bhakti Sutras now of Narad and see in what way the ideas of Patanjali help us understand the Bhakti Sutras of Narad. So Narad he tells a wonderful thing. He says, Sa kirtyamana shigram eva viv bhavati tad anubhavayati bhaktan. He said that the devotees very quickly they get a vision of God by doing kirtan. It's right at the end. It's right at the end. That you can see God by doing kirtan. Pretty far out. Now, but, you see, just as we've discussed how you can focus on different things and then get the experience of different levels of that. So Patanjali, he recommends, if you're going to do meditation, you meditate on the syllable Om. Om. And he said that this syllable is actually the sound form of Ishvara. It's the sound form of God. So though Patanjali gives you a choice what you want to do and everything, but he highly recommends that you meditate on God through a mantra, indicating the name of God. But now this is where the crossover between the Yoga Sutras and Bhakti comes in. Because we're also meditating on the names of God, but we generally don't use Om for kirtan. Because you can't set it to a melody sort, you know. Om. You can. So, but if you take other names, alternative names of God, like Krishna and Hari and Ram, like that, then you can sing them so beautifully, also in a melody. And also another point to take into consideration, that Om is called the Bij of the Vedas. It's a seed. It's a seed, right? So from that seed, the Brahma Gayatri came. Om Bhur Bhuvaha
Swaha Tatsavetu Varenyam Bhago Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yona Prachodayat.
Thank you. Now you're my guru because you just gave me that mantra. Pranams. So the Bij, the prana of Om is the seed of all the Vedas, and from that comes the Brahma Gayatri, which is called Veda Mata, the mother of all the Vedas. So if you want to know what all the Vedas are about, if you just understand Brahma Gayatri, you understand everything. So basically saying here, Dhimahi is a plural. It's in the first person plural. It means we meditate. So sometimes people tend to think that I'm you and you're me and we're all together. And I am the walrus, right? So, but that idea just comes from too much LSD. So the Vedas say, Dhimahi means we're all individuals. And we together meditate, Bhargo Devasya. Devasya is genitive singular case, it means of God. And Bhargo means the effulgence. So all of us together, we meditate on that one Supreme Being's effulgence. So that Bhargo effulgence also means Shakti. So the Shakti is the female aspect. So Krishna is Deva. Krishna is called Dev, Bhagavan Adi Dev in the Gita. And his Shakti is Radha, the goddess of love. So the Brahma Gayatri is saying, hey everyone, let's get together and meditate on the goddess of love, who is the Shakti of that one Supreme Being. You see, so that's the real meaning of the Gayatri. So when we do kirtan, that's what we're doing. We're all coming together, and because if we sit silently, then we're not really meditating together. Because what's going on in my head and your head, everything, we're all like separate islands, you know. But when we're singing, we're exchanging together, and we're meditating together on Krishna, and especially Hare means Radha. He's Shakti, the goddess of love. And so that's why it said that the Om is the Bij, the seed of the Gayatri. Then the Gayatri gives birth to the Vedas, which is like a tree that can fulfill all desires. And then on that tree there's a fruit. So if you want something really tasty, you don't eat the twigs or the leaves, you eat the fruit. So it said in the Vedas, Madhuram Madhuram Etan Mangalam Mangalanam Sakaman Nigamavali Satphalam Chitsurupam Sakrit Api Parigitam Swadhaya Hilayava Brigavara Naramatam Tarya Krishna Nama. Oh, there is something which is the sweetest of the sweet, the most auspicious of the most auspicious. It is the pure juicy fruit of the whole Vedas. And if it touches you in any way, if you chant it with faith or even without faith, it will liberate you at once. And that is this name, Krishna. Krishna. Beautiful. Beautiful. So, here's the crossover. Now, what we want to do is we want to connect the vibration of the mantra, the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, with the stages of Samadhi described by Patanjali. So one of the commentators on Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, who was a devotee, in his commentary he made that connection. His name was Vigyan Bhikshu, very famous, one of the main commentators on Patanjali. So he said that if you take the syllable Om, or if you take the Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, and you do samapati, or the complete engrossment of the mind on that mantra, then what will happen is, when you go into the first stage of Samadhi, that is the Savitarka and then Nirvitarka. In Savitarka, you'll start to see, just as if you meditate on a pot, you start to see the form of the pot, then it becomes clear. So when you do the mantra, when you come into that stage, it corresponds to Nishta in Bhakti, the steadiness of the mind, then you'll start to see the form of Krishna. Just the shape, as if, you know, if you go in a temple and you see a statue, it's like that. It's as if the statue will just appear in your consciousness really, really intensely and perfectly. And you can examine everything. You can look at Krishna's toes, you can look at the shape of his legs, his arms, how he's holding a flute, how he has eyes, lotus eyes. But it's only the shape. That's called Rup. It's only the form. Because you have to go to a deeper level of Samadhi. Right? So in the in the Nirvitarka Samadhi, then you'll see the form of Krishna, but only the form. Then you have to go to the next level, Savichar and Nirvichar. Because just as you were meditating, say, on a pot, but now you're going to go inside and see the qualities of the elements that it's composed of. So as Nishta, your steadiness in the Kirtan goes deeper, then not only the form of Krishna is there, but now his qualities begin to manifest. So now the meditation, it doesn't look like a statue of Krishna in your meditation, but it's soft. You know, Krishna's skin is so soft that if a leaf will fall from a tree and land on his arm, if you take the leaf away, there's a shape there on the skin. He's so soft and fragrant. The fragrance of Krishna will come. And his other qualities, how he's charming, how he's very loving, how he's very compassionate, very affectionate. So the qualities of Krishna, they also come in the stage of Nishta. So then the next level of Samadhi is Sananda. So if that level will come, that means that now you've realized that the happiness of the material world is like a scam, it's a complete illusion, it's a trick your mind was playing on you. So at that time, the seeds of desire in the heart are destroyed, and that in Bhakti that stage is called ruchi, taste. So in the stage of taste, now the vision, you're seeing first like a statue of Krishna, and then it became soft and sweet and colorful and fragrant, and then the vision expands, it goes out, and you start to see the associates of Krishna. They're around him. So Radha, his beloved Shakti, and so many gopis, beautiful cowherd girls in Vrindavan, and the flowers and the trees of Vrindavan, and the birds singing, and cuckoo birds are and peacocks are dancing like that, and the whole Vrindavan begins to manifest in the stage of ruchi. But they're not going anywhere. They're all staying in one place. So that's called mantramaya upasana. And so you can, in your meditation then, you can start to serve them. The bhavs of the associates, they're reflected on you. And then the next stage is called asakti. So then you start to follow, because those who are already there, they have so much love. And their love starts to shine on you. And then your chitta transforms into a beautiful form which is just like theirs. And that's how you get your spiritual body. And in your spiritual body, you enter into that lila, into that pastime, but it's in one place. And then you go into the very deep asmita, the sasmit stage. So in the commentary on the Yoga Sutras, they said, if you're doing bhakti yoga and you're meditating, you're doing this, you have as the object of your meditation God through his names, through the kirtan, then it's no longer just a reflection of the experience in your chitta, but your chitta just melts. Your chitta melts completely and becomes one with the spiritual energy, and now you're actually there. And you have a direct experience of God, and you enter into the spiritual world. So now you're called a Jivan Mukta. That means everyone else sees that you're still here. You're still, what's your name?
Andy.
Andy, right. Everyone says, Andy's still here, he's sitting in New Zealand. But actually Andy's soul has already just broken through to the other side. And he's already playing there in the divine Leela of Krishna. So then you attain Prem, pure love, pure transcendental love. So this is how the Bhakti Sutras of Narad, they tie up. You know, in one sense, Narad is saying, oh, hey, don't go that way and get all these siddhis, it will just distract you. Focus more on the kirtan side of things. But on the other hand, Patanjali gives us the tool to understand the psychological stages, the steps that lead to gradual God realization. Like that. So, there it is. Find a good guru who knows all these things and realize them. Take shelter, receive mantra, practice bhakti every day, and go for it. The local Vrindavan, here you come. Gaur Premanande, thank you. We finished our lecture for today. Great pronounce to you. So we'd like to have a little kirtan now, just to complete. Everyone's up for a kirtan? Another one? Okay.
Okay.